Kim came into our office about 2 years ago, and we were working. She had extreme pain, anxiety. I mean, just her life was literally falling apart. So we went through and we did an evaluation of her spine, because as you know, that's what we specialize in. And I want to show you a quick picture here real quick. So this is not her spine. These are my husband's x-rays, but I'm going to show you just real quick. So what we do, we know that the position of your spine affects how your nervous system works, right?
Right.
So maybe, for example, positions that you guys are leaning in all day long, like the things that we do every day are shaping the way that our spine is. Well, when she came in, her spine was actually reversed, and this is what a normal curve should look like in the spine. And so through a series of treatments, this is what someone would potentially go through. Now, more than just seeing some changes on x-rays, we know their nervous system is functioning better. Many people, they sleep better, their digestive system starts working, because it's like your brain has to communicate with all of your organs, right? And in a position where your spine is not how God designed it, it's going to tension the spinal cord, change the way your physiology, change the way everything heals and functions. So we do have some very specialized equipment to work with these things. So sometimes people are concerned about their posture, because posture is just a window into what your spine looks like. Or possibly concerned about your children's posture, or you're constantly being like, straighten up, you know. But very often it can be an alignment issue, and they're not just being lazy, or they're not just, they're not just focusing on those things. It's an alignment issue. So this is what we specialize in, but I also show you this because sometimes we get to a point where in the position of Kim, we were taking care of her. She went from a -4 degrees to about an 18 degrees, which was good. There's less tension on the cord. Lots of things were getting better. Her neck pain was getting better, but she got to a point where we couldn't get any more change. And we know that there are lots of factors to our health, right? We've got outside factors. Well, we'll just call them the 3 T's. It's like emotional, chemical, and physical stresses. So we take care of a lot of physical stresses. I looked at her spine and I was like, there's something holding you back. And so we went through a series of questions, and I said, I think you have Mercury Toxicity. And so how many fillings do you have? And I don't even remember how many she had. It was like 6 or 8 or something ridiculous. And I sent her to a dentist that I knew that was in the area. And I knew he'd previously done amalgam removals and he had done them correctly, which was great. But when I sent her to him, he no longer does that, and he recommended something else. So he was doing his best. He had some other resources, but I knew that this was mercury toxicity with this patient, because it's not very often that we can't really make those changes if there's not something serious holding them back. So she did follow his recommendations, and they went through some appliances and positioning and different things, and her anxiety got so bad. Like, there was a little bit of improvement, just back and forth. Her anxiety got so bad, she had to quit her job, which her and her husband had an agreement years before that he put her through law school. She was an attorney. He was going to stay home with the girls and then work some side jobs here and there. And so she almost lost her job. Like, she couldn't work for months. They almost lost their home. Her little girls were just like, what's wrong with mommy? Like, you guys can imagine the marriage and the stress on that. And like I said, this was 2 years ago. And I knew that she had been just struggling and through many different health problems. And her husband came in about, I want to say 6-8 months ago. And I said, how's your wife? And he's like, man, she's bad. And I was like, just get her in here. I was like, I've learned so much more on getting the chemical toxicity out of your body. Just get her in here. So we talked about a program of detoxing her body. And you guys were kind of second on the list. So I'm going to walk you through this program that we take our patients through. But this was amazing. This was such a game changer. She started the detox program, but she was so toxic. Have you guys ever detoxed? Like, sometimes you get headaches, digestive things. Like, detoxing is like almost as hard as it going in sometimes. She was still really struggling, and we talked about in the beginning. I said, you're gonna have to get this mercury out of your mouth. I was like, so put on your priority list to schedule a consultation with Dr. Cobb, and now I know you, my friend, which is great. And so just a couple weeks in, she called and she's like, I've got a consultation, I'm doing this, and this. 2 weeks after she got her last set of fillings out, she emails me and she's like, I am feeling amazing, I am sleeping, I can focus, I'm going back to work. I mean, her life was totally changed. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I might get more of the health conditions than you do, but you play such an amazing integral role into people truly getting their health back. So I want to thank all of you. I've sent my mom here, my husband, my cousin, like my loved ones, and every single time they're like, I just loved being there. They were so sweet. They made me feel so comfortable. So, seriously, great job, everybody, and I appreciate you. I can't tell you what an amazing confidence it gives me to walk people through a process, and we're going to blame the emotions on this little human, right? But I can't tell you what confidence it gives me to take someone through a process, and then I have you guys that I can send them here, and I know exactly what you're going to tell them. And I know you're going to stick to your guns, and you guys have a system here, so really do appreciate you, and you're changing lives even when you don't always see all of the outcome. So she was just one beautiful example. I can't tell you how many people really go through this process. So let's get rolling with this here. So detox is a pretty touchy subject. Like, what's the first thing you think of when you think of detox?
Drugs.
Yeah, drugs, or maybe spending a week in the bathroom, or I mean, you just think of things this way. But what we're talking about today is true cellular detox, and this is something that is truly a breakthrough in research. So I can't even remember the first time my husband came and met you. I think it was about 2 years ago. And yeah, I was looking for these things and praying for these things. And I sat at a seminar, Health Centers of the Future, with Dr. Pompa and many other doctors, like Dr. Mercola, Dr. Jerry Bertola. Sat at a seminar. I was just covered in goosebumps the whole weekend. Like, thank you, Lord. This is our answer. So this breakthrough in research is truly helping people detox at a cellular level. Anybody think our world needs changing? Everybody's sick. I mean, how many sick people do you guys see? You just think, I mean, about your own health. Like, how many of you guys have heart disease in your family, or cancer, arthritis, and diabetes? I mean, the list goes on and on. Really amazing studies in the field of epigenetics. They're now looking at 1 to 3% of diseases are genetic. So thinking about the laundry list of conditions in your family, in the history, only 3% of those are genetic. So what that means is for the other 97%, it's like the ball gets back in your court. It's yours. So how many parents are in the room? I mean, like, okay, almost everybody have kids. How scary of a world is it concerning their health? So really cool story, because they're doing studies at Duke University on DNA. Because we're just kind of, I mean, how many of you ever thought, hey, your DNA, like what your parents gave you is just what you get, right? That's just what we're conditioned to think. And, hey, I know you. You bring us our packages. Great to see you.
Go on in.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, it's me. You didn't recognize me without my poodle.
That's right. You didn't bring it?
No, I didn't know what he was over.
Oh, they would love it.
I have a little dachshund poodle that comes to the office every day. He greets the patients, fun stuff. So, okay, this study was done at Duke University, and they're looking at DNA. And they had groups of mice. They had twin mice, and they exercised them the same, gave them the same food, everything. But one of the groups they exposed to a toxin. And the toxin is just something we get every day, right? They spray the fields, it's in our water, it's in our air, it's everywhere. This toxin turned on an agouti gene that caused the mice to gain weight. They became obese. They developed thyroid conditions and heart disease. And you're like, whoa, 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 let's do this again. And they did it. They repeated the study. So with these twin mice, so now they've got the healthy group and they've got the sick group that was exposed to the toxin. So they had the mice reproduce. So healthy mice probably had healthy babies, right? And the sick mice had sick babies, right? Because we know we pass on that DNA. Now what's amazing is within the same study, they were able to reverse those changes to the DNA and heal it, like literally repair the DNA. So those mice, because everybody was on the same diet, worked like same exercise, everything, those mice then lost weight, their thyroid levels got better, and their heart conditions improved. So they are proving over and over that your environment, the things on your body, in your body, the physical, your nervous system, all of those things are impacting your DNA every single day. So I hope this is very hopeful, because when you get the right resources, you literally do have the opportunity and the responsibility to not only change your health, but then of course anybody that you're influencing or feeding or whatever the case. So if the present scale continues, we know 1 out of every 2 children will be on the autistic spectrum. 1 in every 3 children are going to have diabetes, and we know that diabetes is, just shove these things out of the way. It's a condition of insulin resistance, but it's not just a matter of like, hey, take a pill or this will get better or whatever. We know that it has lasting effects. They're seeing Alzheimer's now. So, your brain, it's a condition of insulin resistance in your brain. So people that are diagnosed with diabetes, they're predisposed to that as well. So many other conditions. This is so sad. How many are, well, we don't have to raise our hand. Anybody who's 40 or over? In this country, 75% are diagnosed with a chronic disease. So if you're diagnosed with a chronic disease, how long do you anticipate having that? Forever. Now the study we just talked about and the new exciting news, that may not be true, right? But this is huge. We are 5% of the world's population taking like 75% of all the medications. It's pretty outrageous. So what we're going to be referring back to today is the basic unit of our bodies, a cell. And your cell has DNA, right? We've got little mitochondria. It's just amazing the intelligence that we were programmed with, right? So, anybody in here have thyroid conditions, hormone conditions, insulin conditions, or diabetes, like things like this? So, we look outside the cell in your T3, your T4, in order for your body to burn fat. So there's a whole condition of weight loss resistance. It's not because people don't work out and eat clean. It's because they physiologically have a problem with the hormone leptin. Okay, so then we have other hormones. We have testosterone, estrogen, insulin, so all this great stuff that's happening out here. In order for these things to create an action, they have to get in the cell. Make sense? Okay, then we've got these little mitochondria, they're energy factories. So it's like lighting a fire in here and shutting the door. Like it gives off toxins, right? So toxins have to get out of the cell. So the way that anything gets into the cell, it must bind to a receptor. Make sense? Right? Binds the receptor, gets into the cell, creates an action. So what we're finding is the toxins that are so overwhelming. You guys are bombarded by this information. Like, the sun will kill you, sunscreen will kill you. Working here, you know how like some of the toothpastes are so toxic, and the fluoride in our water. It's just overwhelming. Well, what are those toxins really causing? They're causing inflammation, but they're causing it of the membrane. So if this membrane is inflamed and the receptors are blunted, are the thyroid hormones going to connect and get in? No. But you're going to go to your doctor and you're going to tell them what's going on. You're like, I don't feel well. And they're like, oh, look, thyroid, T3, T4 looks good, leptin looks good, all these things, they check out, look good, because this is your blood supply here. But if it's not getting into the cell, can we see how this is, their action cannot be created? Again, the membrane's inflamed, so these toxins can't get out. So the toxins, what they're doing is they are damaging the DNA. So every one of us may have an obesity gene, or a breast cancer gene, or whatever the case. It's whether or not the gene gets turned on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, clicker. I mean, there's probably not a hand in here or a person in here that hasn't been affected by cancer. It is so sad and it is so scary because these statistics, they're not just including adults anymore, they are including our children. So one person will die of cancer every 54 seconds. So the number one cause for all of these things, damaging our DNA, changing the way that our bodies are working, healing, and functioning, is this inflammation. So these toxins, they're just everywhere. You can't live in a bubble. And no one wants to either, right? So many people also are born with toxins. They did a study and they looked at cord blood and they said that 287 of the 413 toxic chemicals, they found it in the cord blood. An average of 200 toxins were found per baby. 180 chemicals were known to cause cancer. So we also think there's kind of a filter, right? But it's in the cord blood. It is changing their DNA. Cancer rates. So when I saw this, Dr. Dan and I were talking about starting a family. This was almost 2 years ago. And I went to this seminar and I came home and I'm like, hey, we can't do this anymore. We're detoxing. You're going to see Dr. Cobb. You're getting the metal out of your mouth. And then we're doing some more detox. Because that is how powerful it is. And it happened to be at perfect timing for us. So I just encourage people, it's like wherever you're at, it's like now you have the information. Let's see what we can do to start repairing that in your family. Toxicity is a generational epidemic, and there really are three main toxins that are affecting the generations. Lead is one. So lead is carried for 4 generations. It's inherited in utero because guess what you lose? Well, guess where lead is stored? In your bones. Stored in your bones. And you lose bone density when you grow a human. So it leaches out. I'm going to fly through some of these just because I know we're like crunched on time here. This is Dr. Pompa's wife's test. So her mom and her sisters they've gone through breast cancer. She lost her mom, and they're looking at hormones. They're looking at everything that is changing, and Dr. Pompa ran this test. So can you see the levels? So the levels of lead, they're now saying should be under 2 or 3. Her lead levels were 69. So he is a doctor of chiropractic as well, and so they did his son's test. This child has been adjusted from birth, never vaccinated, eats clean. They don't use toxic chemicals in their household, and this child had 32. So you pass it on, and the one thing that's really important, did you guys hear that there was lead in the pipes at Miami Valley in the water? I am not even joking. They were covering hot dogs that night on the news. We had a patient that came into our office. She's a nurse, and she's like, there's lead in our pipes, but don't worry. They did a quick little blood test, and they said, I'm fine. It's only in your blood for, 2 to 3 weeks? So it's so important that we do the appropriate tests. One of the tests that we do in our office is with doctor's data, so it's a heavy metal urine challenge. It's provoked. Lead, mercury, all these different things. So, lipstick contains lead. You wouldn't believe what's in your cosmetics. If you guys are concerned about this, there's an app called Think Dirty. And be careful, because who knows what else pops up. But seriously, don't Google it. Yeah, don't Google it. But checking the app, what you can do is you can put in your mascara, you can put in your toothpaste, you can put in whatever you want, and it's going to give you a scale of 1 to 10 how toxic it is. But overall, if you're really trying to get things out of your household and not compromise on anything, if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, then don't put it on your body. Did you guys hear about the lead crisis in Flint, Michigan? Okay, so this was, it got lots and lots of publicity. Dr. Pompa, the creator of this detox, he was on the board up there teaching the other doctors, the other pediatricians, how to detox people properly. of this lead. And when he looked at the levels, he's from Pittsburgh, he was like, oh, this is nothing. And so then, I mean, since then, 1870 in Pennsylvania had higher lead exposures than Flint. And like I just said, Miami Valley Hospital. Like I had patients going to have babies, and they're like, oh, you can get in the tub if you want, but we can't put water in it because there's lead in it. Don't get me started on that. And then lead found in California schools, 98 public water systems. I mean, this is a really big deal. And not to be all like doom and gloom and scary, it's just the sole fact that we've got to get it out of our systems. This is Dr. Pompa's family, just super quick. I want to tell you, because maybe today you're not necessarily thinking about yourself, maybe you're thinking about your husband or your mom or your kid or your baby or whatever. Detox is appropriate for all ages. It really is. Of course it changes. It changes in the dosages, and some things are liquids and whatever the case. But for example, Dr. Pompa got really sick. His was a mercury thing. His wife's was a lead thing. Like he literally almost lost his life. His son, though, this was his oldest son, he just started having these recurring injuries. So just kind of plant all this stuff in your brains as you guys are seeing patients. Because I mean, how many people talk to you about their health problems when you're laying on the table? I mean, even when our mouth is propped right wide open, it's like people want to talk about it because it's a huge concern. Because when you lose your health, you have nothing left. So this young guy, again, adjusted from birth, like never had a vaccination, and I mean all these great things going for him. He started in high school, getting ready to go to college, like this just reoccurring injury. He had the best chiropractors, physical therapists, massage therapists, I mean just you name it, working on his body, and they couldn't kick it. And as you go through puberty, your bone remodels. And so that lead test that I showed you, that was his test. And so they found that at different points that you go through, like life changes if you go through puberty or you're going through other stages of life as women, everything changes, and there are different times that things pop up and you have to detox again. Or for example, have you guys ever, well, I hear this a lot, but it's like, hey, everything was totally fine, I never had any problems until me and my husband got a divorce. Mm-hmm. And now I've had this neck pain, or I've had, when these things start popping up, we start thinking chemicals, we start thinking cellular level. So, who knew there was mercury in contact solution until like 1990? Just put it right in your brain, right there. Vaccinations, and then, I'm preaching to the choir here with the mercury in your teeth. Anybody know what this is off of? The container of mercury in someone else's office that puts this in people's mouths. So, highly neurotoxic. It's corrosive, it's poison, but as soon as it goes in your mouth, it's totally fine. Yeah. So I'm not going to dive too much into this because I'm not preaching the choir, but they are doing studies that there are direct correlations with how many fillings in your mouth to how much mercury is in your brain, kidneys, heart, and liver. They have done autopsies of babies, and they can look and see how much mercury and tell you how many fillings the mother had.
Wow.
So when I do this presentation, my mom's like, I'm so sorry. Because she had no idea. Like, we truly did not have any idea years ago. Well, how long have you been doing the biological dentistry, or shifted from the main paradigm?
I quit doing amalgam in about 1997, 96, 97, something like that. But I didn't start taking them out properly until about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
It's been longer than that. And I worked for a dentist before him in '85 who didn't do mercury then.
Okay.
It was bad.
So, I had a personal terrible experience, and I went to a dentist. It was a friend of my dad's, and they traded electrical work for dentistry and some things like that. And he was, I was friends with this kid's awesome guy, but I went in and I had 4 huge fillings in my molars, and I didn't correlate it then, but I got sick, and I thought I had strep throat. I lost my voice. I used to sing like at church or the national anthem, whatever, and I lost my voice. thought I had strep throat, went in, tested 4 different times, and they're like, no, you don't have strep throat, you don't have strep throat. I finally was talking to my friend, it's actually Dr. Axe's sister, if you follow me on Insta, and I was like, every time I drink coffee, my throat hurts worse. I can't be allergic to coffee. And she's like, oh my gosh, how many fillings do you have? I was like, I don't know, like 9. And I went down to chiropractic school, and I told my friends, I'm like, I don't normally sound like this. I know I sound like a man. And they all joke about it now. They're like, we totally thought you were lying. I'm like, no, I wasn't lying. So he did connect me with someone down in Atlanta who was able to remove them properly. But 2 weeks after I got 2 of the bigger ones removed, my throat stopped hurting. Then 2 weeks after I got more removed, my voice came back. And my friends were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. We seriously thought you were lying. But it was just, I mean, the more and more that came out of my body, it was phenomenal. So as I went through this process of detoxing, it was really crazy. In the 3rd phase, every time I took the Cyto, which is that breakthrough in research, game changer, detoxer, I was like, oh my gosh, Dan, I need some vitamin D, adjust me, like everything that I could think of to boost my immune system, and then it would go away. But we cycle. So we do 7 days on, 7 days off, 7 days on, 7 days off. And then I would be totally fine. It wasn't until the 3rd time, now granted I'm going to use the excuse of being preoccupied with other things, but it wasn't until the 3rd time that it clicked. Every single time I took that, it was pulling stuff out of my throat. It was phenomenal. And at that point, again, I had not known any kind of detox. I just knew they couldn't be in my body anymore. So that totally changed my life. Oh no. Have you guys seen the Smoky Tooth video? Okay. You know that mercury is banned in multiple other countries, but and these are some symptoms. So often, again, just think about whatever something is going on with the patient. Maybe their awareness is not even in here to get their feelings out. And I don't know how your systems work, but in my little corner, I'd be like, tell them to ask Dr. Culver, Dr. Doug. I'm going to call you Dr. Doug. I know you already get that a lot, sorry. I'll get your name right soon, though. But so many of these factors can be involved in damaging that cell and literally changing the direction of their health. Dentists, you guys may know, you're around these things, like how many amazing precautions do you guys use? Like I've seen the masks. I tell all our patients this too. I'm like, oh, you should see this, like ventilation in the system or in the ceiling and this and that, and they have to filter it 5 times and then pay lots of money to dispose of it. And but you guys truly are at risk. So that's another piece of why I'm so excited to tell you about this, because we have streamlined this detox. And it's like, even if there's nothing going on with your health right now, it's something that you can implement maybe once a year, every other year, just to clean things out, repair that DNA, and then you can age with confidence, knowing that you don't have to tack that laundry list of conditions that your whole family has. You don't have to put that in your health history. Dementia. This is huge. I mean, literally 16-year-old kids are being diagnosed with dementia. And the first sign is something that we all joke about and call it brain fog. Anybody ever feel just kind of foggy? This is just a world-renowned immunologist. He said that anyone that has had 5 consecutive flu shots has a 10 times greater. I mean, anyone in here had vaccinations when they were little, or an adult, or had a flu shot. I mean, Kroger gives the meal away for it, for crying out loud. Like, oh, again, don't get me started. But it's directly correlated. Alzheimer's, #1 concern, and again, we know that this is that insulin resistance in the brain. We actually do an entire workshop on vaccines, so if you do have kids in that age, I'd love to just kind of pour into you the knowledge that I have. I've studied extensive hours and really phenomenal doctors. I'll just give you a quick little spiel if you want any information about it. YouTube Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, and I heard her speak at one of our seminars. I ran into her in the bathroom and I was like, can I give you a hug? So I know some people get excited about like movie stars or they get excited about artists or musicians. No, she's like my hero. This woman is awesome. But I send all my patients to her too, but to the YouTube channels, because there's 6 hours just on vaccines and the true research, what's out there and what you can do as a parent just to make decisions that make you feel warm and fuzzy. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's your responsibility. You have to feel good about that choice. So like I said, we do a whole workshop on vaccines, so we'll just kind of skip that stuff. Aluminum is another one of the things that we do have to detox. Aluminum is in vaccinations. I don't know if you guys know, but they've decided that for a child, 30 micrograms of aluminum would be safe. But as soon as your baby's born, within 12 hours, they want to give them a Hep B vaccine, and that right there is the aluminum in there. It is, and it's very unfortunate that it's happening. It's even more unfortunate that we know it's driven by the pharmaceutical companies and a whole lot of this. Do you guys know what glyphosate is?
Roundup.
Yes, it's the #1 chemical in the Roundup. And when you spray weeds with Roundup, what happens to the weeds and everything else in its path? It dies, right? So they have, of course, genetically modified our plants, different things so that they can withstand this chemical. But the yellow, these are deaths from dementia, and the red line is the increase in glyphosate. Do we see? Yeah.
Yep.
So the biggest problem with the glyphosate is, yes, it's killing us, but it's so weird. We can eat all this junk food and we can still be okay, right? What's happening, especially to our children, the glyphosate, because it can cross the blood-brain barrier, is driving these heavy metals into your children's brains. So the #1 place you find glyphosate is wheat. And how many things is wheat in?
So that's why they put them on a gluten-free diet.
That is why, yes. So it's not even, so sometimes, like we have a specialized test in our office that if you are concerned with this, you can see, do you really have a wheat allergy? Do you have a gluten intolerance? Or is it, like, where is that coming from? So that you can avoid things appropriately. Because even some of the gluten-free products, there's different soy, well, we'll dive into that. There's different soy, corn syrup, things. These are all the areas that you would find glyphosate. So it's in your canola oil. If you have canola oil, go home and throw it away. Just white potatoes that are not organic, cows that are fed genetically modified corn and then it's sprayed, of course, with these chemicals. The soy protein, the fillers, wheat, they spray it on the wheat before they harvest it so that it desiccates so they can get more of a yield. It's on every piece of wheat. Okay, soy isolate. So always kind of think of your kids and all their little cells in their body are like buckets, okay? So here's their bucket, and then they were born with some of your toxins, right? So the bucket starts filling, and then they eat a bunch of junk or things that have glyphosate or whatever. Their bucket gets filled, all these things are bombarding their system, the glyphosate's driving it. When the bucket overfills,